Good morning. So here's our third meeting for the Natural Resources Subcommittee. I think we have a quorum, and I know that we have members who are chairing other committees and subcommittees and sitting on those as well. So we're going to try to continue our business, but we may have to go at ease if we lose our quorum. Let's take roll. Mr. Clerk. All right, thank you so much. Please close the roll, and we'll proceed with today. We have two administrative items. Delegate Lovejoy for House Bill 1379 asked that we pass his bill by for the day. We anticipate this will be the last meeting of the Natural Resources Subcommittee before crossover, so that his bill 1379 will be heard in full committee next week, if he's ready for that. If we can get a motion to pass by for the day.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right. Any opposed? Great. Thank you so much. And that's House Bill 1379. We've gotten a request from the patron Delegate Laufer for House Bill 745 to continue that bill until 2025 under our House rules. If we can get a motion for that.
So moved. Second.
I think that is a recorded vote, Mr. Clerk. All right, I'll open the roll. Okay. Please close the roll, and House Bill 745 will be continued till 2025. I think Delegate Bulova, I think you might be the only patron here. As far as my eye can see, please come on up. You have two bills with us.
Super excited to be here, Madam Chair.
Yeah.
I love mornings.
Which bill would you like to present first?
So why don't we do 316, if that's okay with you?
Great. Let's, ladies and gentlemen of the committee, we have House Bill 316.
All right. Thank you very much, Madam Chair, members of the subcommittee. And I appreciate, Madam Chair, you giving me a little extra time to work on this bill. I do have a substitute, and I believe with the adoption of the substitute, we pick up the support of the Virginia Conservation Network and Environment Virginia. So if I could get that properly before us.
All those in favor of bringing the substitute before us properly, say aye. Any opposed? Great. The substitute is properly before us, and I want to make sure it's available on LIS. I see council working on that. It is? All right. Technology has given us a slight pause, but why don't you continue, and then we can wait for that and if anybody has any issues.
So, Madam Chair, I guess first let me start off by saying that recycling is not the first choice. I'm a very big believer in the phrase reduce, reuse, and recycle. And that means that we ought to reduce as much waste as humanly possible. We should reuse what we have and not just toss them out. And then if you can't do either of those, the next tier is recycling. That said, recycling is a very important part of that puzzle to minimize what ultimately goes into as waste into our landfills. And if done right, recycling can be a very critical part of our economy. Unfortunately, in Virginia, as is nationally, we continue to struggle with our recycling rates, which have hovered around 40% for a number of years. And actually, Madam Chair, this is a little deceiving because localities get to take credit for source reduction. And so you should take that with a little bit of a grain of salt in terms of actually achieving 40% of what is thrown away that actually goes into the diversion of recycling. Regardless of whether it's 40% or less, that's still just an enormous amount of stuff that is put into our landfills that then stays there pretty much forever and has to be managed accordingly. I think a poster child for all of this is glass. And so in Virginia, our glass recycling rate is about 10% of all beverage containers that we see. And so just to kind of give you a sense of the order of magnitude, That's 315 tons of container glass each year, 90% of which doesn't get captured and ultimately gets landfilled. That's actually especially a shame in Virginia, given that we have 2 glass bottle manufacturing plants right here in the Commonwealth. We've got similar challenges with a lot of other materials. We tend to do well with paper and with cardboard, but nationally the US EPA estimates the recycling of metals at 12.6%, plastic at 4.5%, and textiles, which actually there's a heck of a lot of, down at 3.6%. The reasons behind this are challenging and they're complicated. Comes down to a number of factors. And so, for instance, sometimes there's lack of sufficient local infrastructure or equipment. Sometimes it's a transportation challenge, certainly with glass because it's heavy. And then ultimately, there's a challenge with developing those end markets. And so that's what 316 does, is it creates a recycling development center with express responsibility for developing that plan for recycling markets, facilitating collaboration between sources and recyclers, assessing the need for newer enhanced recycling infrastructure, both at the state and local levels, conducting research, and then working with our partners at VEDP, because this is a valuable commodity, and also to the Department of General Services, and then also recommending incentives to purchase recycled products. And there's a longer list of things in there. The other thing that this bill does is it sets up a recycling market development fund to help implement the mission of this center. And actually, this is really, really critical. Probably 20 years ago, we had this Recycling Market Development Council, and its real weakness is it had some really smart people who sat around the table, and they had absolutely no resources and absolutely no money in order to be able to implement their recommendations. So this is a really critical component. And then finally, the bill establishes a Recycling Market Development Advisory Committee to make sure that we get all the right stakeholders to the table. I will note that at the beginning when this was put in, there was some concern from the environmental communities that this not be used as a way to convert plastics to fuels and fuel stocks and fuel substitutes. That has been taken care of with the substitute that you all adopted earlier. I was also approached by DEQ. They have some interest in the bill. And some suggestions. We haven't had a chance to digest those. I'm willing to absolutely entertain it, but since there's a fund, this needs to go to appropriations, and so if it's the will of the subcommittee to send this on to appropriations, I can continue to work with them there. So thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much, Delegate Bulova. It took a little bit of a while for technology to wake up this morning, but the substitute is now online, if anybody would like to read that online. Do we have any questions from the committee? All right, I don't see any yet. Do we have any folks in the audience who'd like to speak in favor of this bill? Please come forward. Thank you so much.
Good morning, Madam Chairman and members of the committee. I'm Mike Carlin on behalf of the Coalition for Consumer Choices, and we very much support this bill. The Coalition's vision is to make Virginia a top-tier state for recycling. We believe this center will be the center of gravity for create the policies, the research, and draw the right industries into Virginia to make that happen. So we're very happy to be supportive of the bill. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. I'm Ellie Beamer with Environment Virginia. We are happy to support this bill. We thank the delegate for working through our concerns with us. Recycling is a critical part of Virginia's future to develop a circular economy. Identifying the problems in our waste stream where there are contaminations, where we are recovering materials but not actually being able to sell them, and ultimately really figuring out what the end markets are is essential to have a sustainable recycling system. So we're happy to support the bill. It can bring a lot of economic benefit to Virginia, but it can also protect our environment in a great way. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Good morning.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Chris Lane, Policy Director for Virginia League of Conservation Voters. I want to thank the delegate for his amendments and for carrying this bill. When it comes to recycling, Virginia needs to modernize its systems. We can do better, and this bill will ensure that Virginia is moving towards a more circular economy, and we can be less reliant on virgin materials. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning, Madam Chair. My name is Steve Carter Lovejoy with the Virginia Sierra Club, and we support this bill.
Thank you. Good morning.
Morning, Madam Chair. Pat Calvert, Virginia Conservation Network. Appreciate Delegate Bulova bringing this bill forward and being open to friendly amendments, and we certainly support this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. Adam Pure, the American Chemistry Council, and wanted to urge the committee's support for this legislation, but also wanted to put on my other hat as a graduate student in sustainability. And the subject of this bill was the subject of the very first paper that I wrote on Virginia and increasing recycling. And so in my other capacity, I just want to thank both the author for bringing this forward and for your consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody here in opposition to this bill? All right. I think there might. Oh, there's a question. Sorry. Oh, Delegate Bluxham. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. In this, I'm curious as to why that you wouldn't even discuss the recycling of plastics, and I'm wondering if recycling of tires, even though you might decide it's in the end not the right thing to do, but there's a load of plastics and tires that we have to figure out what to do with. So I'm kind of curious why, that's not even in the discussion.
So Madam Chair, certainly plastics and tires can be part of that discussion, and in fact, it's a huge part of the discussion with respect to the waste stream. And so, as I had mentioned, the recycling of plastics is very, very low. I think the concern was really what is the definition of recycling, and that not include turning a product into actually a fuel. The idea is to go ahead and turn a product into another product that can be used either industrial or for the consumer.
Follow-up question.
Delegate Bluxham.
But I guess my concern is that in the end, if you can't recycle a tire except for fuel, maybe asphalt, but it's still under study, or plastics except for fuel, I'm just curious why that wouldn't even be looked at for a way to get rid of the waste stream.
And Madam Chair, what I would say is that there's actually other sections of the code that deal with that. And so that's not what this bill does, but it doesn't preempt other sections of the code that have been adopted in the past from looking at that.
Delegate Glass.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is out of curiosity. So I'm really excited about this bill. One, to see the report that comes out in October. But then two, it has a expiration date of 2038. Is there a reason for that number? Is that arbitrary, or do we think we'll be where we need to be by 2038?
I don't know that we'll need to be where we need to be 2038. In fact, I doubt it seriously. But I think I've always found that it's good policy that when something has been around for a while, that we actually take a look and make sure that it's doing what we want it to do. If it is, that's great. That's somebody's bill that they get to carry to extend the sunset. If it's not, though, we need to take a good, honest, hard look and say, hey, if this isn't working, how should we recalibrate our effort so that it does?
Thank you. I think there is one person who signed up online to also speak. All right, great. Thank you so much. Any other questions from members of the committee? This one needs to, we have a substitute and it needs to be sent to appropriations.
Move the substitute and refer to appropriations.
All right, we have a motion to report and refer the substitute to appropriations. That's properly before us. Mr. Clerk, if you can open the roll. Members, please vote. All right, I think everybody has voted, and House Bill 316 has been recommended to report and refer with substitute to appropriations by a vote of 8-0. Thank you so much, Delegate Bulova.
Marvelous. And I do have another bill.
Right?
I'm just wondering if one of those nice speakers took my blue folder. No, those are other blue folders.
Good morning.
There we go. I thought I was losing it, Madam Chair.
I think we have House Bill 420 before us, members.
All right. Thank you, Madam Chair. So this is House Bill 420. Relatively simple bill. So this would allow the governor to enter into agreement with the U.S. Department of Interior to keep national parks open in case there was a federal government shutdown. The impetus for the bill was actually last October when it looked like a federal shutdown was imminent. And that was one of those, you got to the edge of the cliff, and I'm amazed that we were able to go ahead and pull that back. But the wake-up call is that shutdown actually coincided with peak tourism season in the Shenandoah Valley. And so if you've been out in the Shenandoah Valley National Park, you know just how beautiful it is with the leaves turning on Skyline Drive. And so it's beautiful, but it also is huge business. And so while that closure was avoided, it did highlight the potential impacts to tourism and economy here in Virginia as a result of those shutdowns. I just wanted to highlight some of those impacts because, quite honestly, as I had a chance to dive into them, I was even a little surprised. I'm the co-chair of the Outdoor Recreation Caucus. I know this is big business. What I didn't realize is just how critical our national parks were to that equation. And so this is based on statistics provided by the National Park Service. So there were 22.5 million visitors to National Park Service sites in Virginia alone. Those visitors spent more than $1.2 billion. The spending supported 17,600 jobs. The cumulative impact of that benefit was $1.88 billion. And in terms of the impact of national parks on state economies, Virginia ranked number 5. So the impact of that shutdown can certainly be absorbed in some areas of the Commonwealth. However, in a lot of our rural communities, these communities rely on national parks and the business that they generate really for their very existence. And so these are really the small hotels, the B&Bs, the gas stations, the convenience stores, outfitters, and similar types of business. And it also affects the concessionaires at the parks and the people who rely on those jobs to support their families. Madam Chair, I don't like to be in a position of having to clean up other people's messes any more than you do, especially federal messes. But unfortunately, their mess becomes our mess when it affects our economy. And so this bill simply creates a structure for the governor to do the math, right, to look at the economic benefit versus the economic damage. And if it's to our advantage, negotiate an agreement with the Department of Interior to make sure that we can keep some or all of our parks open during a closure. Other states have been able to do this. So this includes Arizona and Utah. Again, I think we would need to be very careful about what kind of agreement that we entered into, but at least with respect to the ability to do so, I hope that we would add Virginia to that list of states. So, Madam Chair, that is what the bill does.
Thank you so much, Delegate Bulova. We have questions from the committee. Delegate Bloxham.
Not a question, Madam Chair, more of a comment just to make sure that we're aware. I love Shenandoah Park, but Assateague is the second most visited national park in the U.S. So just thank you to the delegate for bringing this bill.
I put this bill in for you, Delegate Bloxham.
Delegate Bloxham, our state horse might appreciate this bill. Delegate Hernandez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a question for the patron. 2 questions, really. I'm guessing, well, actually, my question is, in an event where this new provision is implemented and we're using state resources to keep the parks open, who's staffing the parks in those instances? Are there any liability concerns if there's any changing in staffing there? And I guess the second question is, what happens when there is a conflict? You've got a lot of parks across Virginia. They all want to stay open. They all make the same arguments that you just made about the importance to the local economy. How do you think that will work in practice in the event of a shutdown?
Yeah, so Madam Chair, with respect to who would staff it, that would be arranged between the governor and the Department of Interior, but the most logical thing would be to keep those existing staff on, and we would go ahead and make up the difference with respect to the salaries to keep them there. I don't think it would make any sense for our state park workers to try to fill those spots, and so it would be the same people. It would just be a matter of providing the funding through whatever mechanism that agreement was made. As far as what parks, that again, that's the tough job of governing, right? And so that's when the governor has to do the math and figure out what makes the most sense. With respect, again, putting Virginia out there, we're going to help clean up this federal mess. what's going to be most beneficial to Virginia's bottom line and our economy, realizing that there are some constraints in the bill with respect to how much leeway we're going to give the governor to go ahead and spend money before coming back to us for permission.
And Madam Chair, just a quick follow-up.
Delegate Hernandez.
Going back to the staffing issue, I wonder about liability. So in some of the other states have already done this. If we're in a situation where we have kept the federal park staff there, the states are reimbursing them after the government reopens. If someone is injured or if there's some problem, how have other states dealt with that to the extent that has arisen?
Yeah, so Madam Chair, I know that would certainly, the liability aspect would certainly be a part of that agreement between the Interior and the governor. With respect to how other states have handled that, I couldn't speak to that specifically. I do have a person here who would like to speak on behalf of the bill, and perhaps he would be able to say how that's been implemented in other states. But good question. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other, I don't see any other questions from members, folks in the audience who'd like to speak in support of the bill.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, Trey Adams on behalf of Delaware North. We're the concessionaire at Shenandoah National Park, operate the lodging and food services there. As the delegate has well explained, this occurred last October during the peak of leaf season on Skyline Drive. We also operate federal parks in other states, including Arizona, where the state has made the decision to make sure that the Grand Canyon always stays open. There's an agreement between the state and the Department of the Interior. I don't know about indemnification on liability. I'd be happy to try to research that one for you. Generally, the expenses cover the cost of existing federal employees to continue in their job, because no, it's not our desire to take state employees and put them in there. And then, at least generally in past practices, federal employees are eventually reimbursed for any lost wages during a shutdown, so that money would come back to the state to help offset the cost. Be happy to answer any other questions the committee has.
We had this conversation yesterday. I'd like to ask a question, sir. I mean, your comment about the reimbursement from the state government, I do believe it takes congressional action to reimburse federal employees in the event of a shutdown. So that's not always a guarantee, although that has been common practice. Correct.
Following up on our discussion, that's exactly right. It's not a guarantee by any means.
Thank you. Delegate Glass has a question.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I'm looking at line 24, and it says where this funding could actually come from. So the State Park Conservation Resource Fund, voluntary donations, and thank you for having something in there that said this is not in perpetuity, that at some point you got to come back to the General Assembly 21 days for more allocation. But where is our Department of Conservation folks on taking those disbursements? Are they in line with you on this bill?
I think I see Director Wells here. Good morning.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Matt Wells, I'm the Director of the Department of Conservation and Recreation with the parent agency for our state parks. To answer the delegate's question, we don't have a position on the bill at this time. I think the delegate's done a good job of explaining the situation that he's trying to resolve. Happy to answer any technical questions, though.
Great, thank you. Any other questions from our members of the committee? Okay. Anybody here to speak in opposition to the bill? Our person online does not want to come in the room for this bill. Oops. All right, so we have a motion that's been properly seconded to report House Bill 420. It does not have a letter to go to appropriations.
Really? I'd be surprised if it doesn't soon, but I'll take it.
You'll take it? All right. So that's been properly seconded before us. Please open the roll, Mr. Clerk. I think everybody who's here has voted. Please close the roll. House Bill 420 has been recommended to report by a vote of 7-1. Delegate Bulova.
Thank you so much. And I
Thank you
appreciate
so much. Delegate Jones. Members of the committee, we have House Bill 1367 before us.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Good morning to everybody. HB 1367 seeks to establish a first responder and veteran passport, providing exclusive access for first responders and veterans. This particular passport is tailored to offer discounted rates for parking and entry fees at Virginia state parks, specifically catering to the needs of those esteemed individuals. Currently, a commendable military veterans and Gold Star Family Free Access Program operates for national parks. It is my belief that the Commonwealth could expand this commendation to encompass our esteemed veterans and our first responders within state parks. It is essential, and we would all agree, that acknowledging the profound sacrifice of our veterans and first responders who wholeheartedly dedicate themselves to safeguarding our nation, the Commonwealth, and our local communities. Therefore, it would be an awesome opportunity and extension of a great gesture of gratitude to honor these individuals who selflessly place themselves in jeopardy for the advancement of our society. I understand, meeting with DCR, that there is a fiscal impact to this and lost revenue, but I still just believe this is another way to come in alignment with what happens at the federal level to honor the men and women who serve this country. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much, Delegate Jones. Questions from the committee? I see Delegate Bloxham.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Is there a budget amendment tied to this, Delegate?
I haven't turned in an actual one, but I know there's a fizz with it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Director Wells, do you want to speak to that fizz? I couldn't find it online, but I might not be looking in the right place this morning.
What did we tell him?
No, sorry. Madam Chair, member of the committee, Matt Wells, DCR Director. I don't think the FIS is in the system, but it would be about $450 a year, $350 in lost revenue, and then we would need a position to implement the legislation.
Okay, great.
I'm
Thank
glad
you.
we have no position on the bill at this time.
Yes, thank you. And could you? I know we've had this conversation before. Could you talk? Could you all remind committee members and members of the audience again how our state parks are funded and the interrelationship between these fees and your operations?
Certainly. So state parks generates about half of its operating costs through self-generated revenue. Parking fees are a significant portion of that, between $6-7 million each year, given the year. We do rely on self-generated fees to operate the system.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the audience? I'm sorry, questions from our committee members? Folks scrambling. Anybody in the audience who'd like to come forward to support this bill? Anybody who would like to oppose this bill? Okay.
The same meeting.
I think she's not there. All right. All right, it's back with us, committee members. Oh, Delegate Glass, I'm so sorry.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to make a statement and a motion at the appropriate time.
Delegate Glass.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. So I want to express extreme gratitude for Delegate Jones, especially for the sentiments about how we can do and be a better service to the folks that are in service of us. This morning, I think I just asked the folks that are working to sort of compile all the veteran bills together to see the many different ways that we can support and add value to the quality of life for veterans so that whether they're from here, come here, passing through here, they feel empowered, supported to create a good quality of life. Great bill. I know that there are other ways that we can probably do this, take this step of showing appreciation. And so I hope that as we move along in this General Assembly and carry on in the years that we're able to work on those things that truly, like this, improve their quality of life. But because of the impact that it will have to our state parks, I'm going to vote no, but I really do. Everyone who brings a bill for veterans, I'm hoping that over this summer that we can find a way to do the things that will have some real economic support and impact on the lives of veterans. So thank you, Delegate Jones.
Thank you. Delegate Glass, did you have a motion?
I move to really very gently lay this bill on the table.
All right.
Second.
Okay, so Yes. Oh, Delegate Ware, sorry.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I simply would say I'd like to associate myself
Or
with the
remove
remarks of Delegate
the motion.
Glass.
Oh, thank you. I think Delegate Ware just had a comment.
Yep.
Yes.
Thank you,
okay.
Madam Chair. Very briefly, I totally agree with Delegate Glass on this, and I associate my remarks with hers.
Thank you very much. We have a motion that's been seconded to very, very gently lay House Bill 1367 on the table. Committee members, please vote. All right, all those who wish to vote has done so. Delegate Jones, thank you so much for bringing this issue forward.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee.
All right, thank you. Delegate Henson.
Good morning. Madam Chair, I have an amendment to House Bill 795.
All right, members of the committee, we have House Bill 795. Would you like to report your amendment, or would you like council to do that?
Council can, because it's just changing the...
A substitute. Okay.
Sorry, substitute, because it's changing the location name, parcel number, and easement request.
Great, thank you. So we have a substitute that's been proffered. If we can get a motion on the substitute, please. Okay, the substitute's been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? All right, well, I think we're going to all be looking for it online. If you can just again say the difference between the substitute and the original.
Yes, so the substitute is a technical and clarifies the location name and parcel number of the easement requested within House Bill 795.
Thank you so much. Please speak to your bill, Delegate Henson.
Madam Chair, as amended, House Bill 795 authorizes the Department of Conservation and Recreation, DCR, to grant and convey a temporary construction and easement over Neabsco Road at Leesavania State Park to the Newport Estate Homeowners Association. Madam Chair, this easement will allow ingress and egress for repairs and restoration to a slope failure due to poor soil and erosion in the neighborhood community space between Leesavania State Park and Newport Estate Homeowners Association. Likewise, a representative here from the HOA board, Mr. Paul Thompson, is here and present today to answer any questions relating to this particular bill. Madam Chair, I will say that I have worked with Prince William County, and they were trying to decide if this was a local issue or a state issue, but they deferred it to me relating to this matter in order to address the slope erosion that we have here, and that's why we have this bill today.
Great. Thank you so much, Delegate Henson. And the substitute is available online for members of the committee and the public. Are there any questions from our committee members about House Bill, let me get the right number, House Bill 795? Delegate Bluxham, I saw your eyes. Oh, are you just trying to, okay, it's going to come up in a second, it just did for me. All right, while we're waiting for it to pop up, can we have members of the audience who would like to speak in favor of this bill? Okay, committee members, try refreshing your screen, and I think it's also available on iHod as well.
Good morning, Madam Chair and committee members. Name is Paul Thompson, and I'm a board member with the Newport Estates Homeowners Association in Woodbridge, Virginia, and Prince William County. At the time that our community was developed, the control and requirements for backfill soil was not as stringent as it is now. As a result, we periodically have had issues with soil erosion that required action. I'm here to testify on behalf of our community for the support of House Bill 795, which will provide an easement to allow for the repair of significant erosion in a forested region adjacent to Leesavania State Park. This common area in our community is experiencing significant soil erosion, which is adversely impacting the watershed, causing damage to the environment, and it can eventually damage adjacent homes if not corrected. Resolution of the problem will require a significant construction effort to stabilize the area and prevent further damage. This area also experienced a slope failure in 1996 which was repaired by the developer during new construction. As a result of the current situation, the HOA engaged geotechnical and civil engineering firms to develop a slope restoration plan. The plan calls for the removal of about 4,000 cubic yards of soil to be replaced with soil that's more stable, and that equates to about 400 dump truck loads in and out. The HOA had a similar failure adjacent to this site in the 2006-07 timeframe. In order to move equipment and soil in and out of the area where this prior failure occurred, a temporary access road was created from Neabsco Road through an easement. This bill seeks to provide an easement in the same area to once again allow for the creation of a temporary access road. This easement is necessary because the only alternative, if the easement is not granted, is to have heavy construction vehicles traveling along community streets not designed to handle this equipment, and then traveling between homes in the community. The easement proposed is an area along the border of the state park and does not impact any roads, paths, or landmarks located in the state park, and will therefore not negatively impact the functioning use or availability of any part of the state park.
Thank you so much, sir. Really appreciate you coming down today. Are there any folks in the audience who wish to speak in opposition to this bill? Oh, Director Wells.
Morning, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Matt Wells, DCR Director. Respectfully to the patron, appreciate the opportunity to have spoken with him about this. We do oppose the bill. Typically, when we grant easements, and we've had several of these bills come before this body in previous years, they are the only viable access point to the property. In many cases, they follow existing roads that the property owners have used for years. This is simply granting them a legal right to use what they've already been using. Neither of those is the case in this situation. The neighborhood has a properly platted access that they can use for the project. Going through the park would require the construction of a new road that would be about 750 feet through the park. We also look at the impact to our guests and our resources anytime we think about granting an easement. Again, in this instance, we do believe there will be a negative impact to our guests and to the resource. This would go in near an existing trail. I believe the gentleman from the HOA mentioned 400 dump trucks for the project. So we do have concerns about the resource impact. Certainly want to continue to work with the HOA on this, but for those reasons, we do oppose the bill. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Are there any questions from our committee members? Oh, there's some folks online. Sorry.
Madam Chair.
Oh, yes, sir.
Before we go online, to my understanding from Prince William County, the road that we're trying to reutilize was utilized probably in the early 90s, 96. What happened with that road, it became overgrown, so what they're trying to do is reuse that road in order to access the slope.
Great, thank you for that. For the folks online, we'll start with Jack Waldman.
Hi, good morning, Madam Chair and members of the committee. I am the president of the Newport Estates Homeowners Association and a longtime resident of the community. I support this bill. I'd like to also point out that this particular access was used back in the 2006-2007 timeframe to facilitate soil restoration in an area adjacent to the area that was impacted now that we have to go in and fix. So we have used that particular access in the past. The slope and features make it much easier to facilitate traffic coming in and out. The other easements are more narrow, and there's a much steeper slope that we would have to be involved with in order to move vehicles in and out. So again, this very same area was used back in 2006, and then earlier, as Delegate Henson pointed out, in 1996. After its use, the area quickly reverted back to its natural state over the next few years, and we would be able to facilitate any repair or restoration after use. So again, I just want to state my support for this bill. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Jake Waldman, would you like to share your testimony?
Yeah, good morning, Madam Chair and members of the committee. I don't have much to say this morning, just that I'm a member of the Neabsco community, and I wanted to be here today to show my support for the bill.
Thank you. Thank you. Are there any folks here who'd like to speak in opposition? Oh, we did that testimony earlier. I got a little bit confused with the online folks too. All right, so members of the committee, the bill, House Bill 795 is before us. Delegate Willett.
Madam Chair, I have a comment and then a motion.
Delegate Willett.
Now, first, I want to thank Madam Chair, I want to thank the patron for bringing this forward and being such an advocate for his locality and trying to get folks on the same page here. I think we unfortunately have heard some testimony today from DCR. There's still some concerns here, so it seems like you're close, but not quite there. And so, Madam Chair, because of that, I motion that we very gently lay this bill on the table.
There's been a motion that's properly been seconded to gently lay this bill on the table, give you an opportunity to continue the conversations with the department. Mr. Clerk, if you can please open the roll and please vote. Thank you so much, Mr. Delegate Henson, for bringing this issue forward.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Please close the roll. Thank you. Delegate Wiley, is that you back in the corner? Members of the committee, we have House Bill 1464 before us.
Morning, Madam Chair. I do have a simple amendment.
Did you have a?
I do have a couple line amendments.
Line amendments.
Just submitted to the Attorney
Okay.
Council. And if I could just thank you, Madam Chair, and the members of the committee this morning. HB 1464 is in front of you. Individuals and organizations throughout the Commonwealth work tirelessly year in and year out to preserve and protect Virginia's scenic and cultural landscapes. The preservation of these landscapes protect our most treasured historic sites and our most critical natural resources. These protected places support healthful living and good for Virginia's agricultural and tourism industries and ensure that the future generations of Virginians will enjoy the beauty and history of the Commonwealth. The Open Space Land Act empowers state agencies to acquire land in fee or through easement for the preservation or provision of open space. Current code requires that such acquisition conform with a comprehensive plan for the area in which the property is located. Securing confirmation of this concurrence has at times proven to be problematic, risking the opportunity to protect some of Virginia's most important landscapes. While sustaining the provision requiring compliance with the local comprehensive plan, HB 1464 is a small step toward ensuring the unnecessary procedural delays do not threaten the effectiveness of Open Space Land Act, and the Commonwealth's private partners in preservation and conservation are supported in their critically important work. So if we could look at these just general line amendments to consider, and then have some folks here from the Battlefield Association.
Great, thank you so much. Would you like council to report your line amendments? Delegate Wiley? Would you like council to report the line amendments?
Please, I'm sorry.
All right, thank you. Council?
I think we need to move the amendments.
Okay, we can move the amendments first.
Madam Chairman, on line 26 and 27, it said strike all new language and replace with the locality affirms in writing. On lines 41 and 42, striking all new language and replace with be determined by the Director of Planning or equivalent for the locality within 60 days of receipt of such request. Such determination would address whether the easement conforms to.
Okay, can we get a motion to have the amendments properly before us now that we heard what they are?
Move the amendments.
All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? All right. Would you like to bring up, are there any questions from the committee members about the bill as amended?
Yes,
Delegate
ma'am.
Bluxham.
So I'm just trying to figure out the problem that we're trying to solve.
Still early.
Would you like to call a friend? Yes, hello. Good morning.
Good morning. Madam Chair and members of the committee, thank you for allowing me to speak this morning. My name is Kevin Walker. I'm the Chief Executive Officer for the Shenandoah Valley Battlefields National Historic District. Virginia's Open Space Land Act has been established to preserve and conserve the Commonwealth's natural and historic resources, as you know. And this minor language change will provide state agencies and locality officials clarity as to the process required under the Act for conservation easements, and that those conservation easements conform with the comprehensive plan for the areas in which the property is located. Current ambiguities in the language in this area leads to confusion and delays that at times have jeopardized some conservation projects. And on behalf of the Shenandoah Valley Battlefields National Historic District, I would encourage the members of this committee to support this bill. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Why don't we go ahead and continue with public testimony? Are there others who wish to speak in support of this bill? Are there any folks here in opposition to this bill? All right. Members of the committee, are there any additional questions? Delegate Ware.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I guess my question would be the broader one, I don't have on my computer, at least I can't find the revised version of this bill. What's that?
I brought these.
Delegate Ware, I think they're not online because they were just presented to the committee.
Then I guess my general question is, this refers not specifically to the battlefield easements that the gentleman mentioned, but to conservation easements, which is a much larger universe. And I just wonder if there's somebody here who could speak to the question of its potential effect in the wider reality.
Director Wells, is that something that you could help us with, or is anybody else here? I think you should take a seat in the front row. See, save you some steps.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, Matt Wells, the Department of Conservation and Recreation. We don't have a position on the bill at this time. I'm not sure how much help I can be on this one. I was not in the room. I think, was there amendments?
Yeah, we had some.
Okay, I apologize. I was not in the room for the amendments. But if there's a specific question, I can give it a shot.
Well, my question basically is, conservation easements is a larger universe than battlefield. So applying to conservation easements, do you have any thoughts about how this legislation would affect that wider universe?
Do you have the new language?
I don't. Do you have a copy that you could show? You want to see the bill?
Yeah. Apologies, Madam Chair.
No, that's okay.
That's the bill. We have the changes, some floor changes.
Yeah, I've got the.
I don't think it matters unless the government is basically.
I might phone a friend from Director Langen here to help me out. I'm going to yield to my colleague, Director Langen from the Department of Historic Resources, who's going to bail me out on this one.
Great, thank you so much. Good morning, Director.
Good morning, Chairwoman Tran, members of the committee. Julie Langen, Director of the Department of Historic Resources. Yes, you're right. It is a requirement now of all conservation easements that there's a determination of whether or not the property proposed for protection is in compliance with the comp plan for that community. I think what this bill is attempting to resolve is ambiguity around whose responsibility it is to make that determination. And sometimes when those requests are made to counties or other localities, there's no response or a very slow response. This would address that issue. And there is no position on this bill.
Thank you,
Delegate
Madam Chair. That answer really clears up my concern on this. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Members of the committee?
Move to refer.
Second.
Substitute motion.
Delegate Glass.
I move to lay the bill on the table.
There's been a substitute motion that is non-debatable to lay this bill on the table. Mr. Clerk, if you can please open the roll. The motion to table House Bill 1464 passes by a vote of 6-4. Thank you so much, Delegate Wiley.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
I don't see any more patrons for our bills. Oh, all the way in the back. Oh, so sorry. out of my line of sight. Delegate Batten, please come forward. My apologies. Thank you. We have House Bill 1474.
I have before you this morning House Bill 1474, which is very self-explanatory. It allows for the establishment of a work group to recommend exemptions from the Dam Safety Act. And the genesis of this bill is here in the Commonwealth, we have a lot of older dams, many of which are privately owned. After a certain number of years go by, sometimes they are at risk for failure, which is not necessarily as bad as it sounds, because oftentimes downstream from these dams, there's really there's no loss of property or any danger to human life. The problem that we have is that DCR has some very stringent regulations around this, and so we are simply looking to convene a work group to look at what we can actually do to develop some policies that allow for exemptions in certain specific cases where there would be no loss of life or property if the dam were to be allowed to fail. And I do have some folks here to speak to the bill.
Thank you so much, Delegate Batten. Just want to point out, I think, with the convening of a work group, that if this bill moves favorably out of our subcommittee, we need to re-refer it to rules with the other work group study bills. Are there any questions from committee members of the patron? Okay. Are there folks in the audience who wish to speak in support of this bill?
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the subcommittee. Elizabeth Parker with Troutman Pepper Strategies, speaking on behalf of James City County this morning. Appreciate Delegate Batten. This bill seeks to start a conversation on some dams that are in James City County that, as the delegate mentioned, we would prefer they would be able to fail, but due to regulations at DCR and where the kind of water would end up downstream, that's not currently permitted under current regulations. So we would hope this bill would start the conversation to look at some kind of exemptions. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Are there other folks in the room who wish to speak in support of this bill? Are there any folks who wish to speak in opposition of this bill? All right, and then online, I think we have Angela Kane, who is here to speak. Good morning.
Good morning, Madam Chairman and members of the subcommittee. Thank you, Delegate Batten, for introducing House Bill 1474. My name is Angelia Kane. My husband, William Kane, and I are the owners of Jolly's Mill Pond in James City County in Williamsburg. It was built in the late 18th century by the enslaved who carved out one of our hillsides, packed the earth to form an eighth of a mile-long dam, which powered a grist mill for over 100 years. Our dam has been a catchment basin for sediment that otherwise would have washed into the Chesapeake Bay watershed. Currently, we have visitors from around the country who tour our property for its unknown Black history tours, because we are connected to colonial Williamsburg and other sites in historic Virginia. With the current mandate, we are expected to pay almost $1 million to bring our dam into modern compliance, and we are a low hazard dam. In the event of a 100-year flood event, tens of thousands of dollars in engineering studies have proven that we might have a slow flood that would mostly impact our property downstream, but it might cause water to accumulate in the corner of someone's garage, up to 6 inches of water in the corner of someone's garage would slowly recede, and that would be the extent of potential property damage. With this bill, we would be, with exceptions to some of the current regulations, we would be potentially able to pay for out of pocket for any potential damages. Again, there would be no threat to public safety in the event of a breach of our dam. We could cover those costs as opposed to having to pay nearly $1 million to bring our dam into modern compliance. And certainly our story isn't unique in the Commonwealth. So we're asking for support of House Bill 1474. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Kane. Great. Are there questions from committee members? The bill is now before us. Delegate Ware.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm grateful for Delegate Batten bringing this bill. I get probably 1 or 2 calls almost every year from people who have ponds akin to what Ms. Kane was describing, and it's a genuine problem. The costs can be prohibitive for a small individual or group to repair, and there are dams where the hazard is very low. So I hope we can proceed with this because it's a genuine problem in the Commonwealth, and this is a way forward to resolve it.
Thank you, Delegate Ware. Any other questions or comments from the committee? All right, House Bill 1474 is before us, committee members. Delegate Willett.
Thank you, Madam Chair. A comment and then a motion. Really appreciate the patron bringing this forward. I've actually been a dam owner before, so I feel some of this pain from that ownership. It's an ongoing issue, but really just to be practical about this, at this point, this is going to need to go to rules, and I don't believe rules is going to be able to look at any other additional work group legislation. So I would recommend not that we not look at this bill this year, but that we continue the efforts for next year and hopefully can make progress there. So with that, I motion that we lay the bill on the table.
There's been a motion properly seconded to gently lay House Bill 1474 on the table because it would have to go to rules, and rules is, I think the time has passed for them to look at additional work groups this year. Mr. Clerk, if you could please open the roll. Please close the roll. Thank you so much, Delegate Batten. Your bill, the vote is 6-4. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, members of the committee.
All right. I'm going to look for our patrons of the audience across all the roles, and I see Delegate Anthony is now with us. Delegate Anthony has 3 bills before us. Which would you like to take up first, Delegate?
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee. I'll take up HB 999. Again, I'm here to present HB 999, which makes it unlawful for a person to attempt to take or pursue wildlife within the Indian River from its confluence or junction of 2 rivers with the eastern branch of the Elizabeth River to its southern terminus or endpoint at Military Highway in the city of Chesapeake, except that fishing is permitted in such area. I do have an exhibit if anyone needs to see the outline areas of the Indian River watershed that we were talking about. This is a constituent bill brought by the Friends of Indian River in Chesapeake to prohibit waterfowl hunting activities within specific areas of the Indian River watershed. The concern was exaggerated by a hunter who installed a duck blind in the middle of the Indian River in Chesapeake, causing significant concerns among community residents. This community has been thoroughly urbanized for over 60 years in this city and is in the city of Chesapeake's urban overlay. Approximately 25,000 people live in the 5-mile square mile radius of the watershed, just along over 4 miles of the waterfront in community for which they are requesting hunting prohibition. They have 500 single-family homes, 2 apartment complexes, 1 townhouse community, 1 community park, with another under construction. And on the south end of the waterway, we have 3 public schools and a community center. Please note that there has been no tradition of hunting on the Indian River for at least 3 generations. The city of Chesapeake has an existing ordinance that makes it, quote unquote, unlawful to discharge any firearm, spring-propelled rifle or pistol, or air-propelled rifle or pistol from or across any land or water in the northern part of the city, including for hunting. However, there are legal opinions that prevent the city from enforcing this ordinance on state waters. Please note that either by state law or the Department of Wildlife Resources, DWR regulation, hunting on state waters is prohibited in certain areas, including Virginia Beach, on the waters from the shores of Crystal Lake, Linkhorn, and Broad Bay and Long Creek, and their tributaries, in Alexandria on the waters of the Great Hunting Creek, in Fairfax County on the waters of the Potomac River north of Dyke Marsh, and in Little Hunting Creek, which was achieved by 2020 legislation put forth by Delegate Krizik, and on the section of the James River downstream from Bosher's Dam to the Interstate 95 bridge and in other areas. Residents and visitors enjoy recreational boating, canoeing, kayaking, and fishing on the river. They should not have to worry about floating into gun range of camouflage hunters. Additionally, the construction of the Blue Herring Landing Park and canoe kayak launch, which we expect more recreational paddling and fishing, would conflict with the discharge of weapons on the river. Therefore, to alleviate the ambiguity between federal and state laws and local ordinances, it was necessary to make this code as clean as possible and amend and reenact Section 29.1-610 and add portions of the Indian River watershed to this code. Madam Chair, I move that it will be the will of the committee to report HB 999. And I do have the Friends of Indian River who are supposed to be online, ready to testify for this. And then, of course, if you look in the public comment section, you will note that the city of Chesapeake is in support of this.
Great. Thank you so much, Delegate Anthony. Do we have any questions from members of the committee? Okay. We do have a number of folks. Let me see first if there's anybody in the room who wishes to testify in support of this bill. Any in opposition? Okay. So we do have a number of folks online who are here to testify. I'm going to ask that you keep your comments to a minute each so that we can hear everybody's testimony, please. And thank you for taking the time to join us remotely. I'll start just in the order of our list with Roger Ross.
Hello, my name is Rogard Ross. I'm the president of the Friends of Indian River, a local community group. Delegate Anthony quite nicely summarized the situation. We are an urbanized area, have been for at least the last 60 years. This hunting showed up this past fall and has upset the folks in the area. It's not expected. It's never happened before. There's a risk to canoers, kayakers, and folks on jet skis in the area. And so we do ask that we basically put this ordinance in place so that the no hunting, which we've had in the northern part of the city of Chesapeake for ever, be basically continued. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Next, I have Ms. Tarrant.
Hello, good morning, Madam Chair and members of the committee. My name is Michelle Tarrant. I live in the Norfolk Highlands area, directly across from the water where the duck blind is located. I've lived here my entire life. My neighbors and I enjoy the peacefulness of being near the water. We were very unsettled by the sound of the gunshots that started this past fall. It's a quiet residential neighborhood that we live in. It's not a sportsman's paradise. We enjoy recreation on water all times of the year, including fall and winter when the duck hunting season is. We should be able to use the waterway without being concerned about the duck hunters passing near the blind on kayaks, canoes, and being worried about gunshots firing and ducks falling out of the sky and hitting us. There's a new canoeing and kayaking launch point that's being built right down the street from where the duck blind is located. And although I'm aware of this duck blind, there are many people that are going to be using the new park that are not aware of it. It brings up a safety concern. It's an eyesore. It's also, we have a large military community that lives in this neighborhood, and the gunshots are very anxiety producing. Not only to the servicemen and women who might have PTSD, but to people who have small children, animals, and other water wildlife that lives on our waterway. I request respect. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that, your comments. Next, we have Carol Warren.
Good morning, Madam Chair and committee. My name is Carol Warren. I live in the city of Chesapeake on the Indian River, and was very distressed to see the duck blind built this year. It has been very disruptive to the neighborhood. This is a residential neighborhood. It is a duck blind out of place. And my other concern is for the limited number of waterfowl that we have. I really do not think that there is sufficient to warrant hunting. And I think that hunting in this area should be prohibited. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. I have Kylie Rollerson, but I don't see her on the screen. Nope. And then Walter Ball, who I think is not here right now. And last but certainly not least is Helen Haluska. Good morning, ma'am. Oh, we lost her. All right, if she pops back up, we'll let her go. Are there any questions or comments from the committee members? This bill is before us, House Bill 999. Delegate Krizek.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As Delegate Anthony said, we had a similar situation. There's nothing more frightening to a community of, a suburban community that is living in small lots, not rural lots, and then they find a duck blind in the creek, 25 feet from their homes, or even 100 feet. So I, at the appropriate time, I'd like to make a motion.
Delegate Krizek.
I would like to move to report.
We have a motion that's been properly seconded to move and report House Bill 999. Mr. Clerk, if you can please open the roll and please vote. Please close the roll. House Bill 999 has been recommended to report by a vote of 7-3. Delegate Anthony,
Thank you, Madam
would you like to
Chair.
see next?
I'm going to go out of order. I'm going to go to HB 1002.
Committee members, we have House Bill 1002 before us.
And I move the amendments to present a substitute.
Okay, there's a substitute. There are line amendments. Can we just hear what they are and then we can move those line amendments? Would you like to report them or would you like council to report them to us?
I can speak to the amendments.
Okay.
Okay. So after consultation with the Virginia Department of Energy and members of the Virginia Conservation Network, we decided that on line 34, after the word programs, we're going to strike everything afterward and strike all of line 35. Insert a period after programs on line 34. We believe it is wise to avoid a tremendous fiscal impact and provide technical assistance through other legislative and budgetary vehicles currently in motion.
Thank you so much. It's always wise to avoid a huge fiscal impact. Members of the committee, we have these amendments proffered before us. The amendments have been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Great. Delegate Anthony, please speak to House Bill 1002.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This bill codifies the division of renewable energy and energy efficiency into the Virginia Code to track federal funding opportunities for the state's energy efficiency goals. And I'm happy to bring this forward. Virginia Energy already does a great job of identifying and securing opportunities for federal funding, including $2.6 million for an energy efficiency and conservation block grant, securing $500K for offshore wind centers of excellence for planning purposes, securing $11 million in grant funding for grid resilience efforts. And we want to make sure that we codify that language into code to keep Virginia moving forward on these things and other efforts. Of course, we removed that language on lines 34 and 35, and there's no longer a fiscal impact or increased workload on the Department of Energy to offer support to a wide range of public and private entities attempting to secure federal funds. Madam Chair, I move that it will be the will of the committee to report HB 1002.
Thank you, Delegate Anthony. Are there any questions from committee members? Of Delegate Ware?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I wonder if the Division of Energy is in the room and could speak to it with the amendments.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Great. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the bill as amended.
Thank you. Madam Chair, Delegate Larry Corky, Manager of Policy and Planning, pardon me, with the Virginia Department of Energy. And we have no position on the bill. We believe it codifies existing practice as amended, and we thank the delegate for working with us on the amendment.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much, Delegate Ware. Thank you, sir. Are there any other questions from committee members? All right, seeing none at this time. Members of the audience who'd like to speak in support of the bill, please come forward.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the committee. My name is Chris Lane, League of Conservation Voters. I'm also going to be speaking, pinch hitting for Blair with the Climate Cabinet as well. We see energy efficiency and the other resources of federal funds that are present in this bill as untapped or under-leveraged resources, and are looking forward to the adoption of this policy to help bring some of those dollars to Virginia. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning, Madam Chair. Steve Carter Lovejoy for the Virginia Sierra Club, and we support this bill.
Thank you. Are there any members in the audience who wish to speak in opposition to this bill? Okay, great. Committee members, do we have any questions? House Bill 1002 is before us. I apologize. There is somebody online, Mr. Ross. Thank you for joining us, and please share your testimony.
Yes, thank you for the opportunity, Madam Chair. There's significant federal funding for energy efficiency projects coming up at the federal level. We need to make sure Virginia is making maximum use of these funds for the energy efficiency and conservation goals that we need to achieve. Here in Chesapeake, the city is working on a sustainability plan with ambitious targets for energy efficiency for municipal buildings and the addition of clean energy options like solar. We also are looking to bring new industries to Chesapeake. We also want those industries to operate as clean as possible. We also have half our city in the south is rural, and those areas also have opportunities, and there is actually in the Inflation Reduction Act $2 billion for farmers, ranchers, and rural small businesses to implement renewable energy and energy efficiency improvements. Having a central clearinghouse at the state level to help identify and facilitate access to these federal funds will help greatly. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. I have some members of the committee who wish to speak. I'll go with the Uber Chairman, Lopez.
Oh, I apologize, Madam Chair. I just had a motion at the appropriate time.
Okay, if you can hold that, I have Delegate Hernandez.
Madam Chair, just a comment on the bill. Really just wanted to thank the patron for this legislation. There is a lot of federal funding that will be available over the next couple of years because of recent federal legislation. So glad that the department is already sort of scouring for those opportunities, but think it's really smart to put it in the code just as a signal that we want to be industrious about trying to get every dollar that we can so that we can move forward important projects and development here in the Commonwealth. So I just want to thank the patron.
Thank you so much. Delegate Lopez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move to report the bill. Move to report the bill as amended.
There's been a motion to report the House Bill 1002 as amended. Mr. Clerk, if you can please open the roll. Please vote, members. Please close the roll. House Bill 1002 has been recommended to report with amendments by a vote of 9-1. Delegate Anthony.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I do. Next, I would like to present HB 1000. I do have extensive amendments, and then I have amendments to the amendments. I do have copies with me if you would like to.
Copies would be wonderful. Thank you. If we can give them to council, we can pass them back. Would you like to just discuss what the amendments are, or would you like council to do that? Delegate Anthony.
Yes, I would.
To describe what they are.
Yeah, I'll describe.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you,
The
council.
amendments. In front of you, we have extensive amendments after consultation with different agencies and organizations. We actually made sure that we signaled different agencies within secretariats within this bill, including the Virginia Department of Energy, the State Corporation Commission, the Virginia Department of Transportation, et cetera. Here you do have, after the Department of Emergency Management, there is a line that says the task force shall require agencies within the task force to work with an independent consultant. We are amenable to strike that line all the way to the end of that sentence and then carry forward with the Department of Environmental Quality's Office of Environmental Justice shall oversee the development of independent consultant reports. As we move down to line 16, we add the other bullet with meeting with residents of the Commonwealth, representatives from impacted communities, social justice organizations, consumer protection organizations, and representatives from local government as well. On line 19, we add, after such residents, we add and organizations. We are also willing to strike the line after justice, put a period after justice, but striking and Roman numeral 5, make recommendations to the governor to address concerns raised by the independent environmental justice analysis completed by the above agencies. This relieves the fiscal impact of this bill. On line 22, we actually stroke out the 2025 and put in November 1st, 2024, strike the words regarding its activities and put annually thereafter on line 22. And then at the end, we added a caveat on line 24. After the General Assembly's website, we added, prior to submitting the annual report to the governor and General Assembly, the chairperson shall transmit a final draft of the report to the Virginia Council of Environmental Justice, which is currently meeting, and then request that said council to provide written comments. I'd like to move the amendments with a substitute.
Great. The amendments are before us. Colleagues, can we get a motion on the amendments that have been proffered? The amendments have been moved and seconded. All those in favor of having them properly before us, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, the amendments, House Bill 1000 as amended is now properly before us. Are there any questions from our committee members? Delegate Hernandez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a clarifying question for my own benefit. So I know that we also have the Virginia Council on Environmental Justice. I know that in part because I once upon a time served on it.
Yes.
And just wondering if you could speak to the interaction of that council with the Environmental Justice Task
Yes, I
Force.
did have consultation with current members of that particular council, and they helped to craft these amendments. And these amendments create a true interagency task force by incorporating various secretariats and designating state agencies to come to the table to address environmental justice issues. It strengthens the actual task of this task force, and not to only report, but to continue the work, submit an annual report, and establish, regular reporting thereafter. So it actually adds meat to just providing raw data to a task force. Speaking to the substitute bill?
Yes. You wanted to speak to the substitute bill? Go ahead.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, so HB 1000 as amended establishes, again, a true interagency environmental justice task force to further environmental justice in the Commonwealth. Consisting of the various secretariats and activating various agencies within those secretariats, this bill requires the task force to advise the governor and state agencies of the Commonwealth on environmental justice issues, particularly those related to minoritized, historically impacted, and disenfranchised or low-income communities. The bill directs the task force to report its findings to and conclusions regarding its activities to the Governor and General Assembly by November 1st, 2024, and annually thereafter. Citizens of impacted communities may experience disproportionate environmental burdens, such as inadequate clean air, waste mismanagement, improper land use, or other environmental hazards. This task force aims to address and alleviate disparities and ensure fair and equitable access to a healthy environment. Citizens may benefit from the task force efforts to improve conditions. And therefore, I move that it be the will of the committee to report HB 1000.
Thank you so much. Are there other questions from members of the committee? Okay. Members in the audience that wish to speak in support of this bill?
Madam Chair, members of the committee, Jay Ford with the Chesapeake Bay Foundation. We want to thank Delegate Anthony for bringing this legislation. The issue of interagency coordination, the sharing of best practices, and analysis of policies, procedures, and programs across Virginia government has been longstanding. Delegate Keem, back in 2019, worked through budget language to try and create an interagency task force, and it struggled in many ways because of a lack of specificity in what they were expected to produce, how they were going to interact with one another. This legislation helps to provide that framework to make sure that we're breaking down silos, providing some regular delivery schedule for information back to the governor and members of the General Assembly, and gives them much more clear direction on expectations for analyzing their own practices, programs, policies, et cetera, to make sure that they are making meaningful changes. So we think this is a wonderful bill, and we hope the committee will support it. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning.
Madam Chair, members of the subcommittee, Josephus Allman with the Southern Environmental Law Center. Just want to thank the patron for her work on this bill. I think establishing this task force, looking at the policies and procedures of the different agencies involved and how they're impacting environmental justice communities. I think it's important that we're doing that work and highlighting those policies and procedures so we know what's working, what might need to be improved. So again, thank you to the delegate, and we hope you will support this bill.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the committee. My name is Tanisha Griffin, and I'm the Environmental Policy Analyst at New Virginia Majority. And we want to thank Delegate Anthony for bringing the bill forward again. At NVM, we have an organizing chapter in Norfolk, Virginia that has been working to address the issue of environmental justice as it relates to coal dust, a toxic form of pollution, for over a decade. And since 1994, via EO 1289, the federal government has been operating an interagency working group on environmental justice as a crucial strategy for addressing the issue via government action. And we appreciate the delegate for advancing this and continuing to move that model forward here at the state level. So thank you.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning, Madam Chair and subcommittee members, and thank you, Delegate Anthony, for bringing this bill. I'm Faith Harris from Virginia Interfaith Power and Light, and we support the creation of a task force to assess how agencies of government are working to achieve environmental justice across the state. We know that there are some communities across Virginia that are that bear more of the pollution burden than others, that are more highly threatened by climate impacts than others. And we believe that every effort should be made to implement practices and policies that relieve those burdens. And we believe that every agency and every lever of government, as well as civic engagement, needs to be employed in order to achieve environmental justice. And this task force would have the ability to actually assess their own work and make recommendations, policy changes, and implement ways to relieve those burdens. So we hope that you will support this, and we thank the patron for bringing the bill.
Thank you. Are there any folks in the room who wish to speak in opposition to this bill? All right. I think that there's somebody online, Mr. Ross.
Yes, I just wanted to express support for creating this environmental justice task force. Here in Chesapeake, again, we can bear witness to the fact that minority and low-income communities have often faced the brunt of the impact of industrial development and the pollution that such projects entail. The impacts are many, including the loss of tree canopy, water, air, and noise pollution, coal dust, the risk of industrial accidents, and more. This task force will help redouble our efforts to give all communities a fair shake and give all communities a fair shake when we consider these development decisions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ross. Are there members of the committee? Oh, I also see Delegate Ware has pressed his hand too.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to ask a question of the patron.
I yield for the question.
Yes, Delegate Ware.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The question is this. I'm pose a hypothetical and just to see if this would be included in the consideration of the Environmental Justice Task Force if we proceed with this. So thinking about a low-income community that is being compelled by the Commonwealth of Virginia to accept solar farms in their area against the will of that low-income community. Would that be a matter that could be considered by this task force?
I'm assuming, yes, that will be a matter that would be considered, yes. And I will yield to any of my partners that came up in support of this bill.
Madam Chair and Delegate Ware, yes, I think that would be contemplated by the bill. We think that local communities' input on project decisions is paramount, and so we want to respect the decisions of those communities. And for low-income environmental communities that are weighing in on projects, we want to make sure that their voices are heard.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let me get my vote. Let me get my vote.
Any other questions or concerns? Great. Oh, yeah, he spoke. Dale spoke. Yep. All right, members of the committee, House Bill 1000 is before us.
I have a motion at the appropriate time.
Delegate Krizek.
I would like to move to report this bill, and I think it needs to be referred to rules. Am I correct? No? Just report. Okay, we're moving to...
As amended.
As amended, thank you.
Do we have a second? Thank you. The motion has been to report with amendments, House Bill 1000. Delegate Anthony. Members of the committee, please vote. Delegate Anthony, House Bill 1000 has been recommended to report with amendments by a vote of 8-2. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So we have just, I believe, members of the bills from members of the committee. I'm going to start with, of course, my Uber chairman. Delegate Lopez, would you like to present from the podium? Members of the committee, we have House Bill 968 before us.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. I have an amendment that I have with the attorney and the DLS staff that I can explain at the appropriate time.
Please go ahead.
Thank you, ma'am. So first, HB 968 is amended to conform with Senator Serval's bill on the Senate side, SB 729. Secondly, we were also conforming, after conforming SB 729, the draft contains a few additional amendments to enhance the legislation. The proposed amendments address the following. It makes clear that the authority can take and send both public and private sources of funding, which will broaden the reach and effectiveness of the program. It provides that investments in resilience-related infrastructure will qualify for financing under the authority. It ensures the General Assembly and the governor have an equal share of appointees to the board of the authority. It requires that the board appointed the board member to serve as the president of the authority has a minimum of 5 years of experience in the financing of renewable energy or resilience-related projects. It provides that the authority must finance projects that not only reduce greenhouse gas emissions, but that could also increase the deployment of renewable energy or enhance resilience investments. And finally, it makes clear that the authority is directed to seek out all eligible sources of funding rather than just funds for the greenhouse gas from the Greenhouse Gas Reduction Fund from the federal level.
Thank you, Delegate Lopez. Are there any questions from the committee members?
Those are just the amendments.
Oh, those are just the amendments. I'm so sorry. Can we move the amendments, please?
Second.
Oh, council would like to clarify that it's considered a substitute. Can we move the substitute, please? All right, the substitute's been properly moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Okay, if you'd like to explain the underlying bill, Delegate Lopez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So Virginia is going to need a large amount of capital to fund all of the measures necessary to combat the significant threat that climate change poses to our communities, our industries, and to our environment. The key to solving this issue is surprisingly simple, or one key. Virginia should tap into the available federal money under the IRA and BIL and seek out reasonably priced private capital to finance the deployment of proven renewable energy technology and enhance resilience investments. We have a significant opportunity to catalyze the growth of a booming, high-paying industry that could create jobs, including union jobs, and could help us solve some of our most intractable environmental crises. With a modest public investment, Virginia could secure significant federal money and unlock vast private capital investment across the Commonwealth. This isn't a pipe dream. It's already been done in several other states, and Virginia is at risk of falling significantly behind. Highly successful public-private partnerships are already being used by a number of states to leverage small public investments into much larger private capital to help grow and develop their clean energy industries. These institutions preserve taxpayer dollars as that capital is recycled and reused until the capital markets are mature enough to grow slowly or solely with private investment. This bill creates the Virginia Green Infrastructure Fund, an authority to promote and catalyze investment in qualified projects that reduce greenhouse gas emissions, assist climate impact communities, and promote environmental justice. The bank would offer a range of financial tools and structures to leverage private capital in service of Virginia's clean energy goals. In establishing this bank, Virginia would significantly increase the pace and amount of investment in clean energy projects, climate resilient infrastructure, and climate change mitigation projects at the state and local level by catalyzing and mobilizing private investment. Rather than a piecemeal approach of using funds scattered about government agencies, this bank would be a purpose-built institution able to operate efficiently in coordinating market activity across clean energy and resilience programs, designing holistic market solutions, and more directly engaging with private investors seeking to enter Virginia's untapped markets. Based on data from more mature institutions in other states, Virginia could expect to leverage between $5 to $10 for every $1 of public investment or private investment. And because the bank would provide loans rather than grants, All public capital invested in the bank would be preserved and continually recycled into our state's economy. Virginia is already on the path to becoming a national leader in clean energy, and now is the time to encourage the continued growth of this booming industry. This bank would help us fund the creation of countless high-paying jobs across the Commonwealth in an industry that has nowhere to go but up. I hope we can, it's the will of the committee to report the bill, and I hope we can catch up to some other states that are already doing this.
Thank you so much, Delegate Lopez. Are there any questions from committee members? Delegate Bloxham.
All right, thank you, Madam Chair. So I don't see that the state is going to put up seed money for this in your, I don't see that in the, I'm trying to figure out where the seed money goes to, because I think if I understood it correctly, 25% of the money can go to operations of the bank.
Mm-hmm.
So in order to hire and create this bank, there's got to be seed money.
Right. And so we have an appropriations request for some of this money, but also that we're working on the Senate and the House side for the initial investment.
Delegate Lopez, I'm sorry, I want to make sure I understood. So you said that this would have to be referred to appropriations?
Yes.
Correct. Thank you. Other questions from committee members? Okay. Are there folks in the audience who wish to speak in support of this bill? Please line up.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, Chris Lane, Virginia League of Conservation Voters. I want to thank the delegate for bringing this forward. This is really going to be a key vehicle to unlock federal clean energy and infrastructure funds. I want to speak specifically to the Greenhouse Gas Reduction Fund, because this is a $27 billion commitment at the federal level that specifically works to fund authorities like the one that's being set up by this bill. So it's not just the state's money that would be invested as a seed capital, it's the ability to have a bucket to put a massive amount of federal dollars to. And with that, the rest was adequately and wonderfully explained by the delegate, so thank you.
Thank you for the clarity on the seed money too. Good morning.
Good morning, Madam Chair. Jay Ford with the Chesapeake Bay Foundation. We also support this legislation. Virginia, we are behind on funding mechanisms, but more importantly, we are very behind in a lot of the necessary work to create a climate-ready Commonwealth and make sure that we're actually ready for those impacts. This legislation has robust definitions to make sure that the types of projects that they would be encouraging maximize co-benefits, giving us a really high return on investment for things like climate adaptation and clean water at the same time. So we love that. We're also cognizant of the fact that with a question mark over RGGI, we can't really afford to not turn over every stone in terms of potential funding mechanisms, because we have a lot of projects out there that are deserving that need to be funded. So with that, we hope you will support the bill. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Delegate Bloxham, I saw your name. Are you?
I will have some questions, Madam Chair.
Okay. He's going through the substitute. Good morning.
Good morning, Madam Chair. Steve Carter Lovejoy for the Virginia Sierra Club, and we support this bill.
Thank you so much. Good morning.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the subcommittee. Josephus Allman with the Southern Environmental Law Center. Thank you to the delegate for bringing this bill. I think it's critical to bring down the available federal dollars that can help us with our clean energy transition, that can help us with climate adaptation. And so we think this bill is so important to make sure that Virginia isn't leaving any money on the table and bringing in everything we can to support our Commonwealth. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Are there any folks here to speak in opposition to this bill? All right. I think we have one person online. Good morning, sir.
It's Dr. Panagiotis Yanakouros. For this purpose, my academic affiliation, Global Institute for Sustainable Prosperity. I just wanted to add some background information on this issue. First of all, I want to say I appreciate the sponsor pivoting to and leading with federal funds, as has been echoed by a number of witnesses. I also like the use of the term fund rather than bank in clarifying a facility that could be very useful to the Commonwealth. I did want to speak because in the past, prior to the COVID response, there had been some misconception around public banks, which is something this resembles, thinking that they could potentially fund in responses to the global climate crisis. A state like Virginia does not issue its own currency. See my written comments. It has to get currency at one point or another from people who have it. Not so with the federal government. We've seen that those billions and trillions in net spending are spent into existence without the impacts that my fellow economists once believed would be coming about. And I do see that we are pivoting to understanding that. And with that background information, I would commend efforts to align ourselves with a response to the global climate crisis that centers people and does not substitute one way of extracting the global south with another, but instead seeks to improve how we live together. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much for joining us today. Members of the committee, do we have questions for the patron? The timer has gone off for questions. Delegate Lopez, do you want to have a final say? I know.
Yeah, I really do appreciate the fact, and I appreciate the folks who came and worked with me on this over the summer. This is something that I think as time has come, I think we have an unprecedented opportunity with the bipartisan infrastructure law at the federal level, with the IRA at the federal level, with ARPA, billions and billions of dollars that can be put into resiliency efforts, to climate mitigation efforts, greenhouse gas mitigation efforts. And so I think that we need to take advantage of this opportunity, use the federal funds that are available to us, address some of the state appropriations issues, and I think we can actually do a lot of good for the Commonwealth.
Thank you so much. And I believe a couple years ago, we had an effort to allow localities to establish their own, right? So this would give us the ability at the state level.
Yes.
Great. House Bill 968 is before us, committee members. And if we want to move favorably on this bill, we also have to refer it to appropriations. Delegate Krizek.
I have a motion to move and report to appropriations.
There's been a motion to report and refer House Bill 968 to appropriations as substituted. Thank you very much, Mr. Clerk. If you can please open the roll. All right, please close the roll. House Bill 968 has been recommended to report and refer with substitute to appropriations. I vote it passed.
Thank you very much.
The screen cleared. Delegate Krizek, you're up.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning. HB 199 amends the Virginia Brownfield and Coal Mine Renewable Energy Grant Funding Program to allow for the use of state funds. Current law imposes a prohibition on allocating funds to the program unless federal funds are utilized. As most of you, not all of us here, were back in 21, Delegate Kilgore's legislation created this program, which passed the General Assembly unanimously to promote renewable energy developments on brownfields. Virginia law defines a brownfield as properties in which redevelopment or reuse is complicated by the presence of hazardous materials, pollution, or contaminants. Brownfields often pose financial and environmental burdens on communities, and this program works to make these lands productive again by encouraging siting renewable energy facilities on those properties. Unfortunately, the current law relies solely on federal funding to support brownfield conversion to renewable energy, but since its passage, that federal funding has never come to Virginia. My bill would simply expand on Delegate Kilgore's legislation and make it possible to also utilize state funds to help communities with brownfields make those areas once again economically and environmentally productive. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Great. Thank you so much, Delegate Krizek. Are there any questions from members of the committee, subcommittee? All right. Are there any folks in the audience who wish to speak in support of this bill? As I say in my house, please come forward with alacrity. We have two other bills to hear. Thank you.
Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the subcommittee. Josephus Allman with the Southern Environmental Law Center. I want to thank the delegate for bringing this bill. As he was noting, this is a really important policy that can incentivize more of these projects on brownfields and former coal mine lands and avoid impacts to important natural resources like farms and forests. So we'd ask that you support the bill.
Great, thank you so much. Good morning.
Good morning. I'm Michaela Rieserman with the Nature Conservancy, and we support this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. I'm Nathan Thompson with the James River Association. Given the proliferation of brownfields within the James River watershed and the numerous economic and environmental benefits, we support the bill.
Thank you so much. Good morning.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the committee, Jay Ford, Chesapeake Bay Foundation, and we support this wonderful bill. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Cliff Williamson. I'm with the Virginia Agribusiness Council, and this protects farmlands. So we support this bill.
Thank you so much. Are there, the gentleman from the Cattlemen's. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you? Jim Riddell with the Virginia Cattlemen. If this helps to protect and keep our farms and forests and curb the loss of land for farm and forest out of that, we sure support the bill. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Good morning.
Madam Chair, Kyle Shreve on behalf of Virginia Farm Bureau Federation. We support the bill and thank Delegate Crisit.
Thank you so much. Are there any folks who wish to speak in opposition to this bill? Are there any other questions or comments from our subcommittee members? Committee members, we have House Bill 199 before us. There has been a motion to report House Bill 199. It's been properly seconded. Mr. Clerk, please open our roll and please vote. House Bill 199 has been recommended to report by a vote of 10-0. Please close the roll. Thank you so much, Delegate Krizik. We have 2 bills left. They are super exciting. They're mine. I'm going to turn it over to Delegate Willett.
You speak for here, yeah.
Yeah, just speak for here.
Madam Chair, which do you wish to present first?
All right. We'll go with House Bill 1113.
1113.
So these are all like misnumbered. Oh, that's my room number. Oh my gosh, what a morning. That's my room number. I'm just making sure y'all are paying attention. House Bill 985.
Okay.
So sorry.
It's okay. We've got 985 before us. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Are we online? All right. Thank you so much. So if you've been members of this subcommittee in the past, you've seen various iterations of this bill, and I hope this is the year, third time being the charm. But House Bill 985 addresses toxic products that are used to seal and extend the life of asphalt driveways in our homes and neighborhoods. These types of sealants put our children's lives at risk and pollute our waterways, particularly those that contain high levels of toxic polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, or PAHs. They are known to be carcinogen, and sealants with high PAH levels have prominent public health implications, particularly for kids. Dust and particles from high PAH sealants can become airborne and inhaled, washed into stormwater, or enter the body through house dust. And young kids up to age 6 are particularly vulnerable to health effects as they ingest high levels of house dust containing this toxin. Studies have shown that residences that are nearby to parking lots with high PAH seal coats have a 25 times higher toxin load than that of residents that are not adjacent to these types of parking lots. And according to the United States Geological Survey, people who live nearby parking lots where these sealants have been shown to have 38 times greater likelihood of developing cancer sometime in their lives, with childhood exposure being the most important time of exposure. Besides health concerns, these products are also not very good for our waterways. They've been detected in Virginia waterways and in several fish populations. And there's evidence tying PAHs to freshwater mussel decline in the Clinch River and showing that PAHs as a driver of fish cancer in the Elizabeth River. And there are also experiments that have shown negative impacts of PAHs on early life stages of the Chesapeake Bay's native oysters and threatening a vital part of the bay. In response to these toxins, fish have developed cancer, tumors, and lesions, and oysters have reduced spat set and fertilization, and mussels have reduced survivorship. So these are the reasons why VDOT and large stores like Home Depot and Lowe's have stopped selling or using high-level pH products. And so we would like to make sure that we're also not using these on our driveways and parking lots and other areas to help protect our children's health and our waterways and wildlife and marine resources. I look forward to any questions this year. And this bill, because we've had it in previous iterations, establishes a statewide ban. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And any questions for the bill patron from the committee? All right, I think we have some witnesses. Do we want to go online first or in?
Whichever you'd like, sir.
Since they popped up, why don't we go online first? Yes, and we're short on time, so if you can keep your comments to a minute, that would be great. Mr. Gianno Corus, if you could go first, that would be great. Thank you.
Virginia Progressives. I speak from the Shenandoah Valley. Appreciation to Delegate Bolivar, the hub of agriculture in Virginia and hotspot of biodiversity nationally. We have a special connection to the life process here, and it was here in the parking lot of a church devoted to creation care that we were horrified to learn about this toxic, easily substitutable product. We are one with the rest of the constituents of Delegate Wilt, who first carried a bill like this, and Delegate Runyon, who joined him recently in advocating for the health of pollinators and of pesticide applicators, in asking for a statewide ban so no more hapless customers and neighbors experience the dismay I saw in people who unsuspectingly sought to cut a corner or fit in with a seemingly safe norm through this product. This super exciting bill tops our legislative agenda, where it will be joined by Delegate Krisik's 528 if an exclusionary law norm can be removed from it and help us tap those federal funds. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much. And then we've got Dr. Joe Wood, who has the coolest Zoom background we've seen in a while.
Thank you. My name is Joe Wood. I'm a scientist with the Chesapeake Bay Foundation and support this bill. The science behind this bill is incredibly robust at every step, from understanding that the products are toxic to they cause cancer in fish and humans, backed by the USGS, the federal government scientific experts. So with the science here is just incredibly strong. Just two other points I'd make in addition to the points raised by the patron, Delegate Tran. So first, this is also toxic to the people actually applying this. If you think about the employees that on a day-to-day basis are applying this product, they are at an incredibly high risk of exposure to these toxic products. And then lastly, I would just say this product is used in the Commonwealth regularly. I surveyed about 10 different companies in the greater Richmond area. 7 out of 10 of them had this as a product that they use regularly. So this is a bill that advances protection of public health and wildlife at virtually no cost. And for those reasons, I'd ask for your support of the bill. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Do we have Steve Levinson on the line? Not hearing Steve. Okay, how about we'll quickly pivot to any witnesses to speak in favor of the bill in the audience here.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, last time for the morning. Not only is this an important contaminant to address, but proposals like HB 985 have a proven track record of success around the country. For instance, in the city of Austin, Texas, they were using high PAH sealants on their roads that drained into a reservoir. And they were measuring over time the level of toxins that were building up in this reservoir. After realizing that this was an issue, the city of Austin they stopped using those contaminants, and they could see the level of toxins that was in that body precipitously drop off. So not only is this an important proposal in concept, it's one that's been proven in the field. We support it.
Great, thank you.
Madam Chair and Committee, this is Steve Carter Lovejoy again with the Virginia Sierra Club, and we definitely support this bill.
Good morning. Nathan Thompson, James River Association. I've also been deputized by Pat Calvert from the Virginia Conservation Network to say they also support the bill. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Any witnesses to speak in opposition to the bill? None? Bring it back. Any further questions from the committee? We'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move to report.
Second. Motion to report, it has been seconded. We'll go on the board. Madam Chair, the bill reports 8-1.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay. Madam Chair, I believe you have one more bill for us.
I do, but I just want to, I'm cognizant of the time. Mr. Uber Chair, do you want us to continue or do you want to hear that in full committee? Okay, we can continue.
Okay.
All right. House Bill 1186. So I do have a small amendment to this bill, and I'd like to ask council to help us with the amendment. I think we were trying to make it available publicly beforehand, too.
Do you want staff just to share that?
Oh, sorry, it turned into a substitute, but it's a small change.
And if that's not available, we can just have staff share that. If it's up now, okay. If that's up, if we can get a motion to move that substitute.
Second.
Your second?
I can't second.
We get a second on it, and we got a second. Okay.
Sorry,
So that's the substitutes before us. Go ahead, Chairman.
Thank you so much. So the change between the substitute and the original, just rather than asking the department to pull together a report, we're just asking them to put the information available online. All-terrain wheelchairs are built to withstand rough terrain more so than conventional wheelchairs, and they often have continuous tracks that allow them to move into kind of a space that is not necessarily paved or even. And right now, 16 of Virginia's 41 state parks have accessible trails, meaning some trails and some parts of the park can allow Virginians who use wheelchairs to access them. But we want to make sure that our parks are more accessible to individuals with disabilities, and I really feel strongly this is a great way to do that. Last year, I carried a version of this bill, but we weren't able to get the funding for that. But this year, I think the staff at DCR have identified that they can use some non-general fund money from the specialized state park license plate to help pay for the program. And so the bill directs the department to do that, to establish a pilot program using all-terrain wheelchairs at our state parks. While Virginia likes to be cutting edge in some instances, in this one, if we establish this pilot, we'd be joining a number of really diverse states. South Dakota, Georgia, Colorado, Kansas, Michigan, Minnesota, Oklahoma, Wisconsin, all have some version of offering all-terrain wheelchairs at their state parks. We have some of the best state parks in the country, and this is an opportunity for us to make sure that all Virginians have a chance to enjoy our state parks. And I look forward to any questions that we may have.
Oops, sorry. Thank you, Madam Chair. Any questions from the committee? Delegate Hernandez.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And this may be a question also for the director, Director Wells, but just curious about how this funding is used currently for the custom license plates and whether the department has a stance on using it in the way that this bill proposes.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, Matt Wells, Department of Conservation and Recreation. Last time up here, I think. Appreciate the question. The funding question is used primarily for smaller projects. In this instance, after having the conversation with the delegate last year, we started looking into the availability to use this fund to purchase these all-terrain wheelchairs and to start this pilot program. I agree with Madam Chair. We have the best state parks in the country. We want to make sure that they are accessible to folks. So with this pilot, we could put wheelchairs in 6 parks, motorized wheelchairs in 6 parks, see how that goes, and then go on from there. But we are happy to support this bill. We think it's a great step and look forward to implementing the pilot.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Any other questions from the committee? How about any witnesses to speak in favor of this bill? I'm going to start online. Well, actually, we've got a gentleman before the podium, so go ahead, sir. We'll hear from you first.
Okay.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm Tom Blackburn, and I'm on the board of the Friends of Mason Neck State Park and a longtime volunteer there. The Friends of Mason Neck State Park have been engaged in an accessibility program at the park. We're spending a lot of money and time trying to make our park more accessible. We have an accessibility advisor who is a wheelchair user who has, with other members of the board, spent some considerable time evaluating the 4 trails at Mason Neck State Park that have been designated by the state as accessible. She has found that even though she is fit and pretty active, it is difficult to use those trails, those accessible trails, with a standard wheelchair. Having these all-terrain wheelchairs will help her and others to enjoy the park in the way that others do. We can't possibly make all these trails ADA accessible. It's not required, and it would be devastating to the parks to try to do that. So it's really important to be able to let our people who are less physically capable get out there and enjoy the park. And I think this is a great pilot program, and I'm hopeful that it's expanded to parks throughout the state. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much. We've got, we'll go quickly online, if these witnesses could please be brief. Amanda Campbell.
Thank you. Thank you, Delegate Tran, for putting forward this bill. As a parent of a child with disabilities in Fairfax County, I wholeheartedly support pilot programs such as this. My 6th grader used a wheelchair for months this past fall due to knee surgery. I chaperoned a field trip with her class to a nearby park, and the trip was incredibly inaccessible due to the difficulties in pushing a regular wheelchair over the loose rock paths and muddy terrain. I hope to see this grow beyond a pilot program to better support accessibility in our parks across the state. Thank you.
Thank you. We've got also Steve Levinson.
Good morning. My name is Steve Levinson. I'm the vice chair of the committee that Tom just so aptly represented, the Friends of Mason Neck State Park. I've had about a quarter of a century in looking at access for disabilities, but in the visual area. But I always met with skepticism whenever we suggested new technologies. I think one of the best examples of that was the curb cuts that we've seen on sidewalks. And I remember the discussion of that and why would we do that? It's so expensive. I've never seen a wheelchair here. And yet we've got wheelchairs now, we've got baby carriages, all sorts of use of it. On a personal note, my mother spent 15 years in an assisted living facility, and her greatest joy was to go outside and see the birds and the squirrels and the other things, and we fought traffic noise, etc. It would have been wonderful to have been able to take advantage of this sort of technology and to have participated in the park experience. And for that reason, I personally and the park certainly supports the addition of these wheelchairs to the park.
Mr. Levinson, thank you so much. Any other witnesses for or against? Yeah. Delegate Kriesek.
At the appropriate time, I have a motion.
And the chair's reminded me that this does need to go to, the substitute will need to go to appropriations. Oh, I'm sorry, one more question? No question. No question.
Okay, I second that.
Okay, we have a motion to report the substitute and to refer to appropriations. We'll go on the board. Oops, I'm going to try to go on the board. There we go. HB 1186 is going to report and refer by a vote of 8-0. Thank you so much, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much. And our committee has completed its work before crossover. Thank you.